You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
The AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Looking After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Looking After Show.
Hey guys, what's up? I am your host, Scott Moore, and with me on the phone is the always affable, always lovely co-host calling all the way from New York. Ronnie, are you with us?
Hey, yes.
Hey.
I am here now.
All right, awesome.
What's up?
Yes, we had some technical difficulties earlier there, but here we are for Looking, the inaugural season, Episode 5, Looking to the Future. We have now reached the halfway point in the first season, and this was it kind of felt like the midpoint, the mid-season episode here, because all it focused on was on Patrick and Richie. That was it. And it was just
that was very much the all moment. Yeah.
Yeah, it was it was a very it was interesting because no other people's storylines were going on. We saw nothing else going on. It was just focused on them, sort of like a day in the life of episode of, like, you know, following somebody around. So yeah, it was quite intense. We got to learn so much about Patrick, and we got to know a little bit about Richie as well. But really, it was getting to know everything about Patrick here and his background, and, you know, all the stuff of when he first hooked up to a guy, to him having his qualms about being a bottom, to, you know, just even them with their relationship and getting to know each other better. So I found it interesting. Now that we're at the halfway point, I don't know, what do you think, Ronnie? Do you think this show has what it takes to get the ratings? Do you think we'll see a season 2? I know it could be a little premature, but
I certainly want a season 2. I thought it was pretty cool in the sense that the first 4 episodes, the screeners went out for the first 4 episodes, right. So lots of media, lots of industry already saw the first 4, and sort of, media is making the judgments on the show based on the first 4. So this is episode 5, and now people all across the board, are at an even playing field, in digesting the show. And for me, I think it's like every time I talk with friends about the show, some people either love it or hate it.
Right.
But I don't necessarily think that means it's not going to have a season 2. I think that just means a lot of people are getting very pinned up on, like, a stereotype, or is this all, representing all gay men or whatever. And it's like, this is just their stories. And I've been watching on HBO, they have the little, Andrew and the producer, where they talk, about, hey, this is, Folsom Street, this is their fair. This is representing something that's, for this crowd, right, and that crowd. And we're not dialing on one particular crowd. And I constantly like that. And that even works for me because, what I like is what I like, and what Scott likes is what Scott likes. But right. Today's episode was awesome, dude, because I love when people talk intimately about, those types of things, your first time, things that are uncomfortable. That's like connection regardless. And that's what we got to see today, which made me very happy.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I'm not saying I don't like the show, and I of course hope for a second season. But again, like you're saying, there's a lot of people out there kind of with their thoughts of like, where's this going? Especially now that we're at the midpoint of the season, like, where are we going to see these characters move on to? But I really liked this episode, and you're right, like, a lot of the media got to see those first 4 episodes, and that's what a lot of the critics' reviews were on, were these first 4, and I felt like it was a very big change here on episode 5, almost kind of a risky way, but in a positive way, of just focusing on Patrick and the way they shot it, and this whole just, Patrick's skipping out on work and calling in, and them spending this whole day together, kind of acting like tourists, going around to all the famous landmarks around San Francisco and going to the planetarium, and really just focusing on the 2 of them. And it was very intimate, and I liked the way it was shot, because you felt like you were right there with the 2 of them, and you got to see, you're like the fly on the wall. You got to see people on a date together, getting to know each other better in a way that I feel like hasn't really been done before in that kind of way in TV. So I really like that.
You need And you need the episodes, before where it is more of the party, more, rah, rah, rah in your face. And then you just switch up to this slower, more of a connection-paced episode. I mean, I think, not to do the comparison with girls, but we've seen episodes with Hannah where she, gets involved with that older man for some time. Like, you need that switch. We're not, as people, we're all across the board. We're not, we're not linear people. And I thought that was great. And this is what we wanted, sort of, to see Patrick become. I mean, I think me liking his character, like a lot of people, and we saw him assuming he could, that'll just be my Latino one-night stand. No, that's not you, Patrick. You think it's you, but you want something more substantial, and or you're nervous or you're vulnerable to go there, which I don't know. It's like when you watch it, you're like, oh, that's an aspect of my life right there. Boom. And even the stuff that you say that you shouldn't, So that was kind of my favorite aspect of this episode. Scott, I was going to ask you, I wonder if this episode was done more so on a connection basis, the two of them, because it was scheduled around Valentine's Day. Do you think that has anything to do with it?
Huh, that is an interesting thought that I wouldn't have gone with, but yeah, maybe it was a way of just, again, you're right, like it just has that, it brought like the relationship to an intimate level that I think really a lot of people would get. There was someone else watching in the room with us because we were a little delayed here getting finished with the episode, and he was like, it's basically the same way that straight people would go out on a date. And I thought that was really cool because it really did. It really opened it up to just, it's normal. This was two people that were into each other, just having a normal day in the life of. And maybe you're right. Maybe it did coincide with Valentine's weekend. Maybe it just worked out fortuitously with the schedule. I don't know. But either way, I really like the way that they completely kind of shook it up on this very intimate way. And also the fact that Patrick is just very...
I'm losing you a second.
Oh, okay. Are you there? Do you have a better reception now? Well, I was going to say is that I really like the fact that that Patrick is a very three-dimensional character. He's very real.
Hello?
And
I missed that last part. The reception jumped off.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying I really like the fact that Patrick is a real three-dimensional character. He comes across as very, very real to the modern, gay male that's around 30 years old. He's very relatable. And in this episode, I really felt like I connected with him so much more than I have in previous episodes. And I don't know, what did you think about that? Did you feel like there was a good connection there with the two characters? I mean, even Richie, too, felt very realistic to me.
Yeah. I, of course, like very realistic. I, of course, like the connection. And, this Patrick thought he was just going to use this guy as his spicy, Latin little toy or whatever. And again, we're seeing him now try to take it from and I also feel like at Cisco, I remember seeing a film that Benjamin Bratt put together, or his brother, and, talking about the Mission Street and just kind of like being so close to Castro and Latinos and white males and kind of that bond. So I kind of thought not only did we see the connection, but we got to see a little bit of the interracial. We got to see a little bit of, just the communication that is kind of nerve-wracking when you start to talk to somebody. So that definitely was like my favorite part that we and honestly I didn't even see the interracial
I didn't either
at all. This is telling us that we are going more into their relationship, which I said it is Valentine's Day weekend, so I think for the I'm single, so I kind of like it got my heartstrings pulled even more so than before, so kind of very much saying half the episode. I loved it, man.
No, I did too, but you brought up a good point because I didn't even look at it as being interracial. I just thought, there's just two people getting to learn about each other more. Maybe culturally they've had some differences. Patrick's from Colorado, and you saw, Richie had brought up a moment about, how his mom had sent him back to Mexico thinking it would be better for him to be back there for a while when he was growing up. So there was a lot of his Latino culture brought up because he's very religious, and he was wearing a different necklace with the scapular, which was for good luck, and so he's very connected to his religion, and maybe Patrick's not so much. So I just felt like it was like them getting a chance to learn about each other more. And again, like what was great about this episode is there was no outside distractions. There was no like meeting up with the friends. There was no work issues. There was no anything else out there. So it was just this intimate one-on-one on just the two of them. And I thought it was really magical. And kind of just going back through sort of the way the episode went on. But did you read about the article? I think it was I forget which article it was about this being the big episode with the O face.
With the O face?
Yeah.
No, I think you sent me the email and I haven't really went through it.
Well, it was just a really interesting article. This is what they were focusing on, because there was this, the very intimate sex scene near the top of the episode. Again, no pun intended, their top, but where Patrick basically comes and they're seeing his face, and it was really funny because Jonathan Groff, who plays him, was talking in this article about the fact that he's had much experience in practicing the O face, and it was a very, very intimate scene with them, and he got off, and you're seeing his face as he is. So it was interesting, and so you should go back and read that article because I found it fascinating. They devoted a whole article to this O face thing, and I can't remember the guy that plays Dom, what his name is too, but he had piped in this article as well. So definitely check it out, and anyone at home that has not checked it out yet, just search for it on Google and you'll be able to find it, because it was just in, I think, last week's episode.
I'm a little worried if you search for O face and right looking what you're gonna see. It's interesting, and this is what I was gonna tell you. When I saw Richie's character initially, I'm like, wow, Richie Raul Castillo, very good looking. And the Patrick character, this is just to show how much he is lovable, Scott. The O face, of course, sort of did it, but I think Patrick, like, every single episode, I'm just like, he is more attractive in my mind.
Me too. I agree.
That's showing that the characters are really growing because this happens in your day-to-day life, or at least for me, Scott.
Right.
Like, you'll meet somebody and you're like, hold on one second.
But no, what you're saying is you meet people in your life and you think at the very beginning, like, oh, I don't really necessarily find them all that attractive. They're okay. And then as you get to know them more and more, you find them to be more attractive. Maybe you didn't find them physically attractive at first, but you find other things about them that are attractive. So I always find that to be true as well. So I do agree with that for sure. But anyways, as they're talking about their past, I think it was great because we moved past the O-face thing, and they're in the cafeteria having brunch or breakfast or whatever afterwards, and Richie actually brings up and asks Patrick, he's like, did you have pineapple yesterday? And, it's such a, I guess, stereotypical thing. Like, if you were to eat pineapples, it makes your ejaculation sweeter. I can't believe I'm talking about this, but apparently it makes it sweeter. And, for most people, they know that. And so it was really funny. And Patrick's like, I don't think I had anything like that. And they start talking about Patrick, has a very big fear of contracting AIDS, and they both talk about their reluctance to be like that. They don't normally move that fast. So I found it interesting too that, in this generation, I thought it was good that they brought that up, because I feel like that's something that a lot of people in this generation don't, not that they don't talk about anymore, but it's not something that's brought up, and it doesn't have the same type of death sentence per se that it used to have in years past. So I feel like it's not something that people place with such an importance anymore, and so I thought it was good that they did bring that up in this episode as well.
Hello?
Are you there? Did you hear that last part?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Of course. Say it again.
No, I was just saying, like, that I agree with you in that last part, and like moving forward, that after the whole O-face thing, it was just kind of funny. We're just talking about the whole thing that they bring up. The Patrick has a fear about contracting HIV, and I thought it brought up a good point that it's not something that's talked about anymore a lot with this generation. It feels like it's something that like people can live with, and so I thought it was nice that they brought that up, that it is important, and that Patrick was being realistic in his fear of being able to contract HIV. Do you feel that that's something too that's not talked about in the community as much anymore?
I was on the Huffington Post Gay Voices page once, and I had seen Magic Johnson, and he's been doing a lot of work with that Oracle, which is I think that's the right pronunciation, where you can do the swap or whatnot of the cheek. And Magic Johnson has been saying this quite a bit. Like, it's been a double-edged sword for the fact that he's given acknowledgement to the disease, but not almost to a point where people don't necessarily see the severity of what it is, because Magic's been around forever. And I think that goes with just what it was 20 years ago versus what it is now. And I actually had like this conversation even with my mother and with friends, and it's like, we on these shows celebrate, queer as folk would celebrate the sexuality side of it, but this responsibility aspect, I personally always thought it should be discussed a little bit more,
right?
Or they were just the fears that I had in my head too, or questions I had in my head as well. So
exactly.
I definitely appreciate looking for doing this.
Yeah.
This is why when I do talk with friends about like, is the show good? Is it worth it? Is it not? It's like, listen, whatever episode you watch it. But if you watch episodes consecutively, you're going to see the different layers of all of us. It kind of matches like our AfterBuzz group, the group of guys that do this, and Kylie, like we're all different walks of life. We all have different issues, fears, ways we represent ourselves in the community, and that's what Looking has been doing. So I really appreciate Patrick for giving that sense. It was definitely something that was important.
No, exactly. And I think it's important, like you said, it made it relatable, but it also brings the attention to that there are repercussions, and it is something that has been kind of swept under the rug now because, like you said, you have these things of being able to allow people to live healthily after being diagnosed with HIV, and so people don't have that fear that I think they did, like you said, 20 years ago, and people were getting it, and it was a death sentence, and people were dying, and so I think it was very good, relatable, and natural for them to bring that up again with the HIV status. And so as they move along the day, another interesting thing that was brought up is, Patrick mentions how he finds himself kind of being uncomfortable with being a bottom, and he goes into it that it was a little bit like it was uncomfortable for him, sexually, like physically uncomfortable. But then Richie brings up a good point. Is he embarrassed by being a bottom? Does he feel like if his mom were to know, he'd be embarrassed? And I think that also brought up a good point in gay culture too, that sometimes people do feel, the bottom is the weaker or the submissive one, and we go through all that all the time, and the top is the power one, and you'll get the people saying the phrase, oh, power bottom. And so I think that also brought up another good point tonight, and I don't know if you wanted to elaborate on that as well, on what your thoughts were. Are you there? Oh, I think we lost Ronnie, but for you guys out there too, it brought up another good point about having that uncomfortableness with being bottom, and Richie brought up the fact about him being embarrassed by it, and then Patrick said, you know what, I might be a little bit embarrassed by it, and they talk about their first times. Patrick says that he was 15 and coming back from a computer geek camp, and he was a little bit overweight and kind of chunky and awkward, as most 15-year-olds are, and I'm still awkward, more than twice as my life after that. But he brought up the fact that he had kind of hooked up with this guy that was in his camp. They were taking the bus back from Salt Lake City back to Colorado, and he was under the blanket with the guy, and the guy was like 15 also, but had gone through puberty young and was like, very masculine, had the hairy chest, and Patrick was very turned on by it, and felt him up, and he came, and so that was his first experience. And then we find out about Richie's first experience when a Mormon missionary was coming over every day trying to convert his mom, the Catholic, into Mormonism, and he was like 14, and the guy was really cute, and they kind of hooked up for like a week or so until it became obvious what they were doing. So that was interesting, and we learned more about Patrick coming out to his mom and how that went, and I thought it was again very realistic about like a lot of people think. The mom was like, oh my god, what will the neighbors Keith and Marie think about this? It's fascinating because I think of so many times when people come out, there's a lot of those discussions that come out, like, what are the neighbors going to think? What are the rest of the relatives going to think? But it seemed like it went well for Patrick, and that his mom was okay, and she told his dad, and that ended up being okay as well. So, it was sweet to kind of learn about that because, again, it just made sense. And the other great thing that I loved about this episode is they talked about marriage. And, the show takes place in San Francisco, and California now has legal same-sex marriage. And so, it kind of shows, again, that difference from, like, the Queer as Folk time that, aired from, like, 2000 to 2006 to where we are now, and the fact that marriage is an option for us in these days, like there is a possibility that we can end up in being married, and more than what things were in the past. So it adds a whole other dimension, a whole other layer to the dating process. So I love the way they talked about that. And then as we kind of wrap up the episode, Richie talks about his experiences going to visit Senora, and you know, Patrick's so cute too because he doesn't really know Spanish that well, and he thinks that's Richie talking about his grandmother, his abuelita, but actually he's talking about this woman who reads cards and does this crazy thing like breaks eggs over the person's body and then, you know, puts them over the body and then throws them into a bowl and reads their futures from whatever you can see in the egg symbols there, sort of like tea leaves, which I thought was fascinating too. And then she reads the cards, and she had told Richie that, you know, he wasn't gonna have a lot of money, that he was actually gonna get cancer. They didn't go into like if that was life threatening or not, and that he was gonna have kids, and you know that Richie goes to him a lot and goes to her a lot and tries to figure out, you know, what his future's going to be. And, you know, he tells Patrick, he's like, do you want to go and check it out? And Patrick goes and he gets a little too freaked out, and he says, you know, this is not for me. Can we just go back? So they finish up the day, they leave, they go back to the apartment, and, you know, going to the end of it about Richie does kind of stepping back to the whole top and bottom situation. Richie does say, you know, it's good to be able to just be versatile, just because it's a good thing to be able to, you know, be able to get out there and kind of do your thing. And they kind of compared it to which Friends character are you, and yeah, so it was a really funny episode when they're in the planetarium. But the point is, at the end of the episode, Richie asked Patrick if he would like the top instead, and Patrick says, F yeah. So that's basically how the episode ends, and I thought it was really great. It was really cool to see them move along, and obviously from the beginning of the episode where we started, to see that they've obviously been hanging out since between we ended the last episode when at the party scene. They'd hung out at least 3 times or more because they were having this this great little thing going on where they were spending at each other's places. Although I would say, if it seemed like it was the first time that that Patrick was over at Richie's, because he didn't even have a toothbrush over there. He had to brush his teeth with his fingers. So really sweet episode. Again, just to kind of wrap it all up, it was really cool to see them be able to focus solely on this episode and a fly in the wall day in the life of. Thought it was really great, and I'm excited to see where we're going to go with episode 6. I guess we're going to go back. If I was to do predictions, I guess, if we have a second to do those.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Ooh, the predictions. Yeah, so kind of go back to what we were talking about the last episode. I think now we're going to go back in episode 6 with the whole group, because now we need to regroup. And I still think that we had this really sweet episode with Richie and Patrick, but I still think there's going to be, you know, some drama there. I still think Kevin at work, you know, I think Patrick's going to have a drunk late night working with Kevin, and you know, there might be a little bit of a mistake going on there. So there's definitely going to be some drama there. And I still think we're going to have, you know, Dom with his 40th party, and he's also going to mess up his opportunity with Lynn, because there's going to be trying to be something romantic there, but he's going to mess it up at the 40th birthday party as well. So it's going to be interesting, and it'll be interesting to regroup now after having this kind of standalone episode to see, you know, how we move forward with the rest of the characters with episode 6. We've got 3 more episodes left, so it's going to be a fun ride. See how they're going to wrap it up. Yeah, it's a good episode tonight. Lots of fun. Love to hear what you guys think. Definitely let us know. Post your comments, and I will respond to them. Love, love, love. It was a good episode, guys, and we'll be back next week. More fun.
Where can we find you?
Oh, that's right. Where can they find me? Duh, I'm totally blanking. You can find me at SMAN80. That's SMAN80 on the Twitter. And we'll be back next week after the Olympics on Monday, February 24th with Archer and Chosen podcast. And if you're in the LA area after the Oscars on Sunday, March 2nd, you want to take a break, come in Sympathy Laugh for me. I'm going to be doing stand-up comedy again over at the Comedy Store in the Belly Room in West Hollywood, Sunday, March 2nd at 8:30 p.m.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.